Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? So I wanted to talk about relationships because I have different men that ask me out, and throughout my lifetime too, I've had different men that wanted to marry me, but they just weren't the ones for me. So I am 51. I've never been married before. I have had, like I said, different men that wanted to marry me, but I take marriage very, very serious. I do not believe in divorce and remarriage. Um, I do believe in first husband, first wife, until death do you part, and fornication and adultery are two very different things, and I can go into that deeper in another post. But to summarize it real quickly, um, um, fornication is when a married person that's married to their first spouse, they're each other's first husband and wife. For whatever reason, they divorce, then they decide they don't want to be together, and then one of them or both of them marry somebody that has never been married before or is widowed from their first spouse, and that person that they married, that's marriage number two, is the fornicator, and the fornicator can leave and be free to marry someone else because they had no business marrying someone that was divorced from their first spouse. And so that's biblical. The Bible says first husband, first wife until death. And and it's just that simple. And so even if that spouse commits adultery, that is not grounds for divorce and remarriage. Only fornication is. And again, fornication is what I just explained, that you can't do that. It's just wrong. So the fornicator can leave and be free to marry someone else because they had, again, no business marrying someone that divorced their first spouse. It's until death do you part. What God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. And that's all biblical. And so with that being said, I take marriage very seriously. So when I do have different people that, just different men that have asked me out, and they want to get to know me, the first thing is important to me is finding out what their status is in life. Are you divorced? What's going on? And so I recently had somebody ask me out. They wanted to get to know me, and and I just, point blank, like, what's your situation? And so they told me they had, they were married before, and they're, obviously divorced. And I just said, I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. I believe in what the Bible says. I'm first husband, first wife until death. So I declined. And also, what's important to me is once I find out, if someone is like, I talk to someone else, that they're always so sweet to me. They're always giving me compliments and all of that. And I personally know this person from a lot of years, since I was like a teenager. And so, asked him, what's your situation? And he was just like, yeah, no, I've never been married. And it's like, oh, okay. But now let's take it to a step deeper. And once you establish that, yeah, that person is free to marry, and it's okay to enter into a relationship with them or start dating them, start talking to them. Number one, next to that, is making sure that they are a believer. As a believer and as a minister, I want to make sure that whoever I am communicating with, whoever I'm, dating, that they are saved and they are truly saved. They are really serving God, and they're not one foot in and one foot out, but they are all in into serving the Lord. That is a big one. And that's how it has to be, because we need to be equally yoked. But being equally yoked on another deeper level also means that that person, that, whatever man that I choose to date, that they understand that I am called into ministry, and I'm not going to slow down in ministry. I'm not going to slow down until the Lord tells me to slow down. And I don't see that happening anytime soon, because God keeps using me and moving me in ministry. And so I need to be obedient to the Lord in that. And I want to be. I really love what I do and how the Lord blesses me to be used by Him for His glory. And so finding someone that understands that I do have a ministry that belongs to the Lord, and I have to be a good steward of that. And so a lot of the times on the weekends I'm out and I'm doing things. Sometimes, I can get calls, Because again, when you're dating someone, it is in contemplation of marriage, right? We don't just date to date, it's in contemplation that could this be the one that the Lord has for me? So it's having those deep conversations. Hey, what if one day we did get married and I get a call from someone 2 o'clock in the morning that's really going through it and they need someone to be there for them, to pray with them. And I do have people call me that sometimes they're going through it and they need prayer or they need you someone to talk to, and that's part of ministry. And so you have to be prepared, like, can they handle that? Can they handle that from time to time? You're going to get those emergency phone calls where you need to be there to counsel someone. And even sometimes you can get calls. People do get calls. Other pastors and stuff get calls where they have to leave their house in the middle of the night to go pray with someone that's in the hospital. They could be on their deathbed, or someone was in a car accident and it doesn't look good and they need to go there to go help the family and go be with the person. So those are conversations that you need to have, and if that person's going to have an issue with that, then that's probably not someone that you want to get involved with, because should that relationship grow into a marriage, it can and will become a problem later after you're married. And then they're trying to tell you, no, don't take the call, or no, don't go. That's just not a good thing. But I also truly believe that when the Lord does bring people into our lives, like as ministers, or even like other pastors, or just all of those of us that are in ministry, He's not going to bring us someone that's going to try to hold us back in ministry. If anything, they're going to know what they're getting involved with, that I am called into ministry, so they're going to be on board with that. So you need to be equally yoked, yes, as believers, but also in understanding that they understand that, when you're called and you got to go places, you got to go do things, then to go minister, go pray, whatever the situation is, different outreaches, that you're going to go, different events, and that they're going to go with you. If there's one thing that I'm a big believer in, is if, you are in a serious relationship or you are married, then as a couple, you need to be going, especially married couples, you need to be going to every single event together. I actually know someone who her and her husband, they have several children, but they do not let that slow them down. They take the whole family to go to the events. They're always together to all the different events, ministries, everything that I've seen them together. And why is that? Because you have to close the door to any temptations, but also to anybody making up things that just aren't true. So when you're married or you're in a serious relationship, you really got to make sure that whoever you're getting involved with, that they're going to be on board going with you and helping you in the ministry. That they're going to understand that they need to be there with you, because if you do decide to take it to the next level into marriage, then you want that person as your partner to work with you and support you in the call of your ministry. They may not be on the pulpit with you, but they will be part of that ministry with you, because they're choosing to get involved with someone that is called into it. And then now taking it on a more personal level too is, I am an independent woman. I always tell people I am completely independent from people, but I'm 100% dependent on God. God provides everything I need, and I have been blessed by God with a great job, and I'm a car, very nice. God blessed me with my dream car. I've always wanted a Honda Civic, and that's what I got because I love driving, and those are known to get the best gas mileage. So that was something that I really wanted, and God blessed me with that. And when I actually got my car, it was because my other car was having a lot of problems. And so one day I prayed to the Lord. That's how God led me, to pray to Him. So I did, and I just said, Lord, I've never been married before. I don't have a husband. You are my husband. So Lord, I'm asking you to provide for me, God, because I don't have a husband that I can turn to and say, honey, wait, I need another car. The car keeps breaking down. Can we work out the finances so we can get another car? I said, Lord, I don't have that. I said, but you're my husband. And so I asked the Lord to help me. And shortly thereafter is when I got blessed with this car, my boss came into my office one day and she was like, I don't want you or your church pouring any more money into your car. If you're willing, I'd like to buy a company car um, that you can drive for a couple years and save your money and then buy something later. And then when she turned the company from a proprietary to an S corp, then she had to tie up on different financial loose ends and having that car because it was over $27,000. $27,000. It was over that plus all the insurance and everything that she had to pay and registration. She had to close up those loose ends. Well, then she ended up eating $20,000 and sold the car to me for $7,600. And so, and it was my dream car, the Honda Civic, and that is such a blessing. I love my car that God's given me. So I'll say all that to say this, that God really provides for me, and I'm His. And so, it's being able to find someone that understands that if they're going to enter into a relationship with me, it is going to be God first. And it's also going to be that God has given me the ability to be able to do the things that I do. I work, I have a great job. I'm able to do the things that I do. Even when I want to go shopping, I can. Not extravagant, and sometimes I can go extravagant, but not all the time. And so it's Him understanding that if He's going to get involved with me, He cannot be threatened by my independence and try to suppress me and try to control me and try to tell me, oh, well, you shouldn't do that with your money, or you shouldn't do that, or no, try to keep me from doing things or go places that first I'm being called to from the Lord to go minister at, or just being able to go somewhere because that's what sometimes I just want to go hang out with my friends and go do things, and they have to be okay with understanding that I'm still my own person, and they can't be threatened by that level of independence. And this is a thing, and my mom taught me well this, which is she told me that before me and my sister ever were to get married, that she would want us to live alone first. And she said the reason for that is because if whoever we decided to marry ever turned out to mistreat us and just, I hate to say it, but yeah, unfortunately be a jerk to us and mistreat us or whatever the situation may be, that she wanted us to know that we can make it on our own without being married. She didn't want any man to have any kind of grip on us where they can try to trap us and keep us in an abusive relationship or a controlling relationship that's just not good. And my mom did not want that for me and my sister. So that was very important to her, that we lived independent before we ever got married, and that's something that we are both capable of. And my sister very much lived alone for a lot of years by herself before she got married, so she's a hard worker, and same here, God bless me. So when I do meet someone, it's them understanding, I'll enter into a relationship with you, and if I get married, understand, though I'm not your property, I will be your wife. I'm your bride, but I'm not someone that you can control like a child. And I hear a lot of men, they always say this too, oh, you have to submit, but they forget the other part of that verse too, and it says, wives, submit to your husband, but it also says, husbands, submit to your wives. And so a lot of men think that to submit means letting them tell you what to do, and that's not what that means at all. And also, it also means, because I'm a very outgoing, vivacious person. They have to be okay with that, especially because of the ministry and the things that I do, and I make a lot of friends, and they have to be able to accept that I do have friends, and I do have people that are important to me in my life, and they can't try to end those friendships because of their own insecurities or whatever that may be. They have to be able to meet your level of confidence that, hey, I'm with you and I'm going to be loyal to you, And, you know, as long as my friends respect you as my mate, then there should be no issues. And that has to be that mutual respect with each other. Um, and so I think that is a very big one, is that they cannot be threatened by my independence. But there is something that I did learn from someone that is so true, which is whoever we meet in life, they have to be able to provide for me better than I can provide for myself. They have to be able to protect me better than I can protect myself. Because as a woman, I want to feel safe with my mate. I want to know that if my husband has to, my future husband, if anything, God forbid, were to ever happen to me, and or I just got really sick and couldn't work for a while, that he would be able to take on that load and take on that weight. Or if anybody ever tried to hurt me, that, you know, we could be walking out somewhere and some crazy lunatic try to come and hurt us, some crazy bad guy, you know, robber or whatever, that he would do what he has to protect me, to be able to protect me better than I can protect myself. And that's a big one, because again, as a female, as a woman, I want to feel safe with my spouse. I want to know that he's gonna um that he'd be willing to lay down his life for me, you know, and to protect me. Also, as we do get older, you do want to find someone that I look at my grandparents as a great example of this. As my grandparents were getting older, and my grandmother, before she went to be with the Lord, I remember one day seeing my grandpa coming in with his little walker, and he went to go cook an egg for grandma. It was never a question. He would never put her in any kind of a home. Would not happen. He wanted my grandma to stay with him for as long as possible. And so it's finding someone that's not going to be, oh, well, they're old and decrepit and now I'm going to throw them in a retirement home. No, that's my spouse, that's my other half, and I'm going to do what I have to take care of them, because I want them to be in the home with me. And so that's a big one, is to find someone that as you get older, they're going to love you as they did from day one, and they will do whatever they need to make sure that you can stay in your own home, and that you will stay in your own home, and until the Lord calls us home. You know, that is a big one, and I so thank God that I have my grandparents to be such a great example of that kind of love. And you know, also, it's and my grandparents were married. It would have been 72 years, but it would have been their 72 years, but grandma went to be with the Lord, so they were married just over 71 years, just a little bit short of 72 years. So that's a lot of years in marriage, and you know, they have a lot of wisdom in that. You know, grandpa did eventually go be with the Lord too, and you know, I know one day I'll see them again, but my point is that they were a great example of taking the marriage vow seriously, each other's first husband and wife, and they went through a lot together, but they loved each other to the bitter end, and that is such a blessing to me, that I was able to witness that between my grandparents. So it is really finding someone that will do for me what my grandfather did for my grandmother, and my grandmother too, taking care of granddad, making care of my grandpa. And so that's just so important to me. And also, it's also important to me that, you know, I am who I am for a reason, meaning situations in life mold and shape who you are. And it's finding someone that just accepts me, how I dress, how I do my makeup, any of that, that they just accept me for me, and they don't try to change me, because I am who I am for a reason. And life circumstances, certain things have changed me, you know. But if any changing is going to take place with me, it's going to be because the Lord does that, you know. And but what I see is that the Lord loves me, and he He's continually taking care of me. I know that his hand is upon me, and I'm very blessed. So if the Lord is happy with me as I am, then my spouse needs to be so too. I'm whoever the Lord brings me. And I truly believe that God will never bring you a spouse that's going to try to hold you back in ministry, going to try to control you, not take care of you the way he should. Like, he's never, I don't believe he will ever do that. And he's going to bring you someone that's going to be in alignment with the call in your life. So if that person is not in alignment with the call that God has in your life and not treating you the way you should be treated, then you really got to question, is that person from God? Because just because they may look like they are and all of that, it doesn't mean that they are. You really have to stay close to the Lord and ask the Spirit to give you that discernment, and you got to listen to him when he speaks. I think something else too that I have heard men say that, oh, well, I'm the man, so I'm supposed to lead. Let me tell you something. If it's a true man, he's not going to ever say that to you. Do you know why that is? Because a real man isn't going to say that, because he's just going to lead by example. He's just going to show that his decisions benefit the both of you. They're good, healthy decisions for you both. And as a woman, as an independent woman, when we see that whoever we're dating, that if they can make good decisions while in a relationship, then that shows us that we're going to naturally see that they're good leaders, and then we're going to want to follow their leading, and then it gives us that confidence that in a marriage they're going to lead well. I remember I have some relatives that they had gotten married and they were looking for a house, and they had both found houses that they each liked, and they were different price points. One was more expensive than the other. And when I talked to the wife of one of my relatives, she was just like, I really like both houses, but this other one, I prefer this other one. It's a little bit more expensive, but he is the man of the house, so whatever his decision is, I'm going to go ahead and submit to that. And so that's the proper submission. But then it also says, husbands, submit to your wives. You love your wives, right? And so later on, as he was looking at the finances, then he ended up picking her first choice. And I remember talking to him one day, and he said, he goes, even though the house that they ultimately bought was her first choice and the more expensive one, he told me, he goes, I was looking at the finances, and there was no reason that it would not financially hurt us if we got the house that she really wanted. And he goes, so there was no reason why he couldn't say yes to the house that she wanted. So that's the proper submission, that she, said, okay, I like both houses. This is my favorite one, but, I'll leave the decision up to you, and whatever you choose, I'll submit to that. And then he also in turn submitted to her and loved her to say, there's no reason why we can't get it. We're financially in a good spot. It's not going to hurt us. It's going to make you happy. And he loved her, and he wanted to make her happy, and they were able to do that. And so that's a healthy submission. And that's just one example of submission. So it's finding someone that's going to be able to make those kinds of decisions, that understand, like, if there's no valid reason as to why not, then they're going to make a decision that's, yes, going to make you happy, and it's not going to put you in any kind of financial burden or anything like that. And so that is a big one too, is that if it's a real man, he's never going to feel the need to say, well, I'm the man and I have to lead. It's going to be, I'm the man and I'm going to show you that you can trust me, and we're just going to see how they walk and see how they treat us and see their decisions. And we're going to be like, oh, I really like how they're leading. I really like how they're talking to me. I really like what their reasoning is, and it makes sense. And then we're just going to naturally want to follow. I think another one is, man, when you are in tragedy, that's when you're really going to see the measure of that man. Because I can tell you, having lost my mother, that was horrific. and it was awful, and the pain was unreal, and I'm still going through it. My mom has not even been gone 2 years. It's barely been like a year and a half, and it just seems so fresh, and I miss my mom dearly. But if that person cannot be there for you, you know, that's selfishness. I remember my papa one day told me, he's my bishop, but he's like a father to me, and he's my bishop that I go to. He was married to his wife 62 years before she went to be with the Lord, and she was his one true love, and he never desired to marry again because she was his one true love. And that is just amazing, and I thank God that I have a father figure like him in my life to look up to, so the qualities that I look for in a man will also be the qualities that my papa has. Because to me, you know, my papa is almost 90, he's 89, and he's lived a long time, and he has a lot of wisdom, serving the Lord a lot of years longer than I've been alive. And I just have a lot of respect for him. And I remember years ago, you know, him and his wife would pray. You know, they stayed in prayer for me, and even though she's with the Lord, but I know that God honors her prayers, and I'm very blessed to you know, to have again another example of what I should be looking for. But what he did tell me, he goes, when you're in a relationship, regardless, doesn't matter what that man has been through, he told me, he goes, that man should want to be there for you in the midst of tragedy, because he's being the man, he really wants to be with you, then he's going to want to be there with you and be compassionate, loving, and caring towards you in the midst of all of that, no matter how long it takes. And that's one thing he pointed out, that that man should want to be there for you when you're in the midst of tragedy. Those were his words. Like, it's, you know, to want to be there. And if they don't want to be there for you, or they're just, oh, I'm not that sensitive, or I'm not that emotional, or this or that, or they give different reasons, then that's just not someone for you, because that tells you that in a marriage, they're not going to be there for you then when you really need them. So if they can't be there for you in a relationship before marriage the way they need to be, then that tells you they're not going to be there for you after you get married. It's going to get worse. And so that's not something that you want to turn a blind eye to. It's something that you really got to pay attention and focus on the behaviors of this potential man that you're dating, right? And you know, something that I see too is when a man begins to talk about, like, if they have little habits that, like, I remember talking to someone and they were like, and I remember because I was witnessing all of this when they were in the dating phase. They were their husband now, but when they were dating, when she was dating him, he would say and do things that she just kind of turned a blind eye to, and we just thought were cute, and he's being funny and this and that. But those turned out to be the very things that now just drive her crazy. And now she realized that, like, man, he's like being sarcastic. He's being like, now she realized that those things that she once thought were cute are now like, oh gosh, this is driving me nuts. So we have to pay attention to those clues, you know, like about, we can't turn a blind eye to what we think is cute. We have to ask ourselves and really look, are they being sarcastic, or are these habits or things that are really going to annoy me? You know, if I were to marry that person, and are they going to be that hurtful? Like, that's something that's just, wow, like, you got to really pay attention to that. And I think also friendships, you really got to watch the friends, you know, of whoever that man is. I remember years ago, you know, before I had my daughter and I was with her father, he had one friend in particular that he just, you know, sometimes when people see other people happy, instead of just being happy, they try to find reasons to throw hate and negativity in there. And so he started coming against me, and really quickly, my daughter's father just put his foot down. He wasn't gonna have that. Like, you know, he knew real quick that if he was going to put him in a position to choose, then he was going to choose me. And so that friend backed off, left it alone. And then I had to put him in his place too. And so he knew, like, you know, it. The guy has to be able to keep his friends on check. And if he cannot keep his friends on check, then that's the time then he needs to cut that friend off. And if he doesn't, if he's putting his friends before you and keep making excuses because of what they want to gain out of that friendship, then they're not putting you first. And that tells you that in a relationship, they're not going to put you first. They're going to put their own desires and their own friends before you. So as a female and as a woman, these are things you have to look for, you know. And again, you got to make sure that you find someone that's never going to be threatened by your independence, you know. And so for me, it's also, you know, because I am so independent from people, and you know, I've accomplished what it is that my mom's wanted, so that I never get stuck living and staying with someone that's going to mistreat me. It's that man understanding, like, my opinion matters too. So as much as you want me to hear some of your ideas and what you think, then you need to be able to hear me out and take into consideration the things that I'm saying or what I want. And so communication is key. And like the example with the house of one of my other relatives, that man needs to be able to do that for me too, to be able to say, okay, this is what I would like, but I don't see a reason why we can't do this, whatever the situation may be. The house was just an example, but there are many scenarios that can apply to. But it's also finding someone that's going to go to church with you, read the Bible with you, pray with you, and do active ministry with you. Like, that's really important. You know, I am a social butterfly, so I do, you know, want to be able to, you know, right now I'm renting. When I left Santa Barbara and I moved to Oxnard, I decided to rent a room. It was cheaper, saving money. It was me by myself, so there was no reason why I needed to spend all this extra money. But now that I'm looking for a place, because now I'm ready to move into my own place again, I want to be able to, you know, have Bible studies or get-togethers, you know, at my house with some of my Christian brothers and sisters. And so that mate needs to be able to, like, be okay with that, hey, you're a social butterfly, and it's also part of your ministry, but it's also just a downtime for you too at times, just to want to get together with some of their friends and have a movie night, have a Bible study night, or have a barbecue, or just come and fellowship, you know, whatever the situation may be. And they have to be able to embrace that and be able to get close with some of the other, you know, brothers there that they can be friends with, and, you know, just to be able to accept that, you know, those things that you would like to do. Because if these are things that you don't address now, when you're in a dating phase, it can be the thing that makes or breaks your marriage. And money is another one. Like, you have to be able to talk about financially how you see things and where you are, where they are, because money is by far one of the biggest reasons why people unfortunately split up and they get divorced, because of money. And then they probably really didn't even talk about it when they were in the dating phase. So it's being able to have those discussions on what your views are, what your goals are. And if they're bringing those things up, and money is such a high priority for them, then that's another thing. Like, yeah, we should both be working, we should both be taking care of our responsibilities. But if they're just only concerned with money, even though all your needs are met, you're doing fine, you got your emergency funds, all of that, then that's a problem, because that means that that person is now money focused. They have a love of money, and that's dangerous. And that will hurt your marriage, that will hurt your relationship, and that's just not good. I do like to recommend to people, when you're going into the more serious the dating and now you are looking at marriage, you definitely want to be able to get into like marriage classes at your church, and also take the Dave Ramsey courses if you can. I've taken the courses a couple times. It's good for everybody to take, whether you're married or not. And so I tell people, like, I would tell people, like, if I need to tell them, like, and I recommend it, I highly recommend, when you're at that level, to take Dave Ramsey classes together and see where you're both at financially and how you view money and the role. Like, yes, of course it's going to pay the bills, but how are you guys going to work together in it? And if you guys are completely on two different levels and how you view money, how you handle money, what your goals are, then that's probably not someone you want to hook up with, because that will be something that will be an issue later in your marriage, and that could be the thing that way marriages don't stay together. So that's just not something you want. So you want to, these are all different topics. These are just some things that, that I think are big ones. And I know, again, for me, because I am older, I am very independent. It's just it's just finding someone that, again, that's a big one for me, and I can't say it enough, that is not threatened by my independence. And if it's a real man, he won't be threatened by my independence. Because I have other friends too that, they're older and they're single, and so they are used to being able to do things and all of that, like myself. And it's, whoever we each individually meet, that now they're not going to try to keep us from doing the things that we do and be threatened because they can't trap us financially, because we're able to make it. And so that something that you really, again, if it's a real man, he won't be threatened. He will embrace who you are, and he will help you to be the best version of you, and he won't try to hold you back, more importantly, from our relationship with the Lord. If anything, he should be pushing you closer to the Lord if he is a true man of God. And it's also that someone that's not going to try to hold you back in ministry. It's got to be someone that's going to push you to be all you can be, that the Lord has for you to do, because ultimately ministry is for the Lord. It's about the Lord and him reaching souls through us, and to also be a blessing to those that are hurting. There are things that I've gone through that can be a blessing to other people, and it's whoever my spouse is, they have to be able to understand that, and be able to go with me places, so that way when the Lord calls me out to minister different venues, different events, then it's they understand that I'm there for a purpose. And I just happen to really love what I do. The thing with the ministry is that it also ministers to me too, and I love where God has placed me in ministry, and I'm so grateful to God. God is so good. And I think also something that is very important, that you do have accountability people. Like for me, I will definitely, for me, it's talking to my papa, talking to my aunt, Lady Phoenix, people that are strong believers in the Lord, that will hold you accountable and will make sure that you're on track and keeping the relationship pure, keeping the relationship appropriate, and having those honest conversations, and then being able to eventually say, hey, I want you to meet my friends, I want you to meet my papa, I want you to meet my auntie, because these are people that their opinions do matter to me, and I know that they love me, and I know that when they're on the outside looking in, then they can see things from a different point of view, and that man, if he's a real man, he won't have a problem with that. He will be okay with that, and he'll embrace it. Like, let's do this, let me go meet them, and I'm also very, very old-fashioned in that I do believe a man should be opening and closing the door for you. I do think that a man should pull out a chair for you when you're going to go sit down. If you're eating dinner and you have to get up to use a ladies' room, I think that it's very appropriate for a man to stand up as you stand up. It's just a respect for a woman. I'm very old-fashioned in that, and that's just me. I have these old school values, and I praise God, because I feel like these days a lot of these values just aren't there with the younger generation, and it's just sad to see. And so it's these are all just things that I look for. I think that a lot of other people that I, interact with, I think they're kind of looking for the same things too, and so when you're, again, a minister and dating, these are values and things that for me are a good guideline, but ultimately it's praying and asking God to lead, guide me, give me discernment, and ask the Holy Spirit to show me if this person is someone that He has for me. Because it's just a lot of people, unfortunately, they can present themselves one way, but it doesn't always mean that's really how they are. So you really want to keep your eyes open, stay in prayer, seek the Lord, follow the leading of the Holy Spirit, and to make sure you keep your your circle of the people that you go to. For me, it's my bishop, my auntie, and I like to talk to Lady Phoenix, my dance partner, one that I do. We do ministry together. We're also really good friends, but she's also one that will give an honest opinion, and so they all are, all these three, and I thank God that they're the kind of people that will give me their honest opinions. And if they're willing to do that, then, and you're willing to listen to them, then it's a layer of protection to make sure that you're not just jumping into something. So yeah, so that's just how I kind of view some of these things, and I hope it's a blessing to you guys. Hopefully it gives you guys some guidance there. But yeah, so this is just something I wanted to share with you all. Anyways, I hope you all are having a good night. Thank you so much, and read your word, say your prayers. Remember, the Bible is God's love letter to us. So read your word, read the Bible, and remember, Jesus loves you. All right, thanks. Bye.